Did the Alaska summit do more harm than good for Ukraine?
President Trump, he sincerely believed that he can persuade Putin in personal meeting. He failed. We need to explain to President Trump that Putin just continues to play games. He wants to continue the war.
You don't think like a permanent peace could come through this deal?
What permanent peace? Ukraine will never recognize any inch of our territory to be Russian. I'm absolutely sure that Russian Empire will collapse for the third time. We don't know, tomorrow or in 20 years.
In just hours from now, US President Donald Trump is set to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and European leaders following his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Alaska summit on Friday. There is a sense of optimism ahead of the meeting, with Zelensky saying that they share a strong desire to end this war quickly and reliably, and Donald Trump hoping to broker a peace in a region that has been in a state of war for the last 3 years. What happens here on is extremely crucial, and to discuss what could happen is joining me Oleksiy Goncharenko from Ukraine. He's a Ukrainian member of the parliament.
Yes, hello.
I would quickly first ask you how optimistic or pessimistic you are about this meeting that's going to take place in the Washington.
I don't have much optimism because I think that the aim of this meeting will be to explain to President Trump that what had happened in Alaska it's just a trap from Putin. What Putin demands it's unacceptable both for Ukraine and Europe. So I'm not waiting much from this meeting today, but it is important meeting because we need to explain to President Trump that Putin just continues to play games. He wants to continue the war, and the United States should change their attitude towards him. Instead of red carpets, they should show him an iron fist.
Right. And Zelensky wasn't, of course, invited to the table in Alaska. At the same time, Trump says that now everything depends on Zelensky. How is that so?
That is the trap from Putin. Trump spoke with Putin. Putin gave some proposition which Trump decided to be perspective, but it is not. And the problem of meeting just two of them without Ukraine from the very beginning was that Putin will try to push something which is unacceptable for Ukraine, and when Ukraine is absent, that would be just nothing. So Alaska is just coming to rubbles because what Trump decided to maybe to be possible and acceptable, it is not. And now Trump, by saying this, he really wants peace. He really wants to stop killing. But there are things which are acceptable for Ukraine. There are things which are not. Putin clearly knows what is acceptable for Ukraine and what is not. That's why he pushes this agenda instead of ceasefire right now, immediate unconditional ceasefire. Instead of this, he proposes some kind of a big peace deal with a territory, additional territory that he wants to receive. By the way, the territory he wants to receive is the territory which Russia can't take for more than 11 years. Just imagine, for more than 11 years, Russia is attacking and trying to take under control this Donetsk region. And for the moment, they just took control over probably two-thirds of this, maybe three-fourths, but not all. And now, after 11 years of fighting, Putin just wants to take what he can't take by force, to take it by so-called, I don't know, bluffing or chantage, blackmailing. So it's unacceptable.
So, since you say that, let me ask you this. Did the Alaska summit do more harm than good for Ukraine?
No, I can't say that. We will see today. If we will explain absolutely in a soft voice, in a mutual, respecting way, yeah, to President Trump, where is the trap, why it is unacceptable, then I would tell you that Alaska just gave no harm, but no sense too. The only thing I see is the result of Alaska is that President Trump, he sincerely believed that he can persuade Putin in personal meeting, that he can make him to agree. He failed. This is reality. So he needs to change his attitude. So from this point of view, there, sometimes we say no result is also result, because now you know what is no sense to do.
All right. We can't help but think about the February 28th showdown that happened in White House between Donald Trump and the Ukrainian president. But the times have changed. The situation has also changed. And this time, the Ukraine president is going to the White House with a backup. The European top leaders are going with him. How optimistic you are about that?
Definitely, last meeting in February was catastrophe, and the only
Mm,
person who was happy about this was Putin. So
yeah.
we just shouldn't give him once again such a victory. So I like the fact that Zelensky will not be alone there, because it's clear that between him and President Trump, the relationships are not the best. But together
Mm,
with other European leaders. And in reality, we can say that today in Washington, look, there will be Chancellor Merz, President Macron, Prime Minister Starmer, Secretary
mm.
General of NATO, President of European Commission, President of Finland, and so on. And maybe I missed somebody. So we can say that it will be the whole West there. So it will be a big brainstorming what to do next.
But don't you think at the same time the European leaders are also there so that they can keep the transatlantic relationship intact, which has come under a lot of pressure since Donald Trump has taken to the White House? So, do you think there could come a time where the European leaders could have to find a choice where to rally behind Ukraine or keep the transatlantic alliance intact?
No, I don't think that there is a kind of that there is two different options: either to keep transatlantic relationships or to support Ukraine. Absolutely opposite. To support, why Europe is supporting Ukraine? Not because they are Ukrainian centric, not because they, I don't know, love Ukraine. They support Ukraine because they support Europe, because they just don't want Russian tanks to be on the border with the European Union. That's it. So they clearly understand that Ukraine today is a stronghold of Europe, on the eastern stronghold. 35 years ago, Russia controlled half of Europe, including half of Germany. That was just 35 years ago, not so long ago. So they clearly understand the threat. That's why they are supporting Ukraine, because they know the danger and threat from Russia. And the basis of transatlantic relationships between Europe and United States is that Europe needs allies against Eastern threat, against Soviet Union before, now against Russia. It's the basis of these transatlantic relationships. So when we're speaking,
Alexa, sorry to cut you off. Just very quickly, the reason I ask you this is because I understand Europe understands that, but do you think the U.S. president understands that? But because just before the Alaska summit, I was speaking to some of the analysts from Ukraine and also from Berlin, and they were specific, saying that that Trump does not exactly understand Eastern Europe very clearly. Do you share that opinion?
no, I think that Trump clearly understood. He spoke a lot with the Eastern European leaders and in Europe with European leaders. He clearly knows why Ukraine is important for Europe. I know this for sure. So no, I don't think he doesn't know. Another thing is that Trump, he's saying America first. So he's playing on several boards. He's interested in Europe, but I think he tries to take Russia from China. He wants to isolate China at least partially. So he wants to earn money with the tariffs. He wants to revitalize American industry through tariffs. So he wants many things, and he wants them at the same time. That's the problem. Not because he doesn't understand something. He understands everything. I'm absolutely sure about this. He understands why Ukraine matters for Europe. But also he's trying to find where is, the soft place.
Right. Alexei, let me also ask you and take you back to this one tweet that Donald Trump put out. And that kind of gives us a sense of what exactly happened in Alaska summit, because we don't exactly know word to word what happened. He mentioned two things. One was no going into NATO by Ukraine. And the other thing that he mentioned is that there would be, quote unquote, no getting back the Crimean Peninsula. Now, these are two things that Ukraine hasn't agreed to, but it is coming to terms with through a tweet. So, how do you think the Ukrainian president needs to play his power dynamics, if you so to call it, when he enters the White House today?
Uh, I don't see big problems with this. So let us just watch this closely. Ukraine has two red lines. First red line is non-recognition of Ukrainian territories to be Russian. Yes, we understand when the conflict will be frozen and we are moving to this, part of our territories will be still controlled by Russia. But to control doesn't mean to own. To control doesn't mean that it is internationally recognized. So this is Ukrainian territories which are illegally occupied. So this is red line number one. Red line number two, no limitations of Ukrainian sovereignty, meaning that Ukraine makes its own sovereign choices about what army to have, what alliances to join. So let us start with Crimea. United States has a right to say about Crimea whatever they want. We don't have any influence on this. But Ukraine, Crimea is part of Ukraine, which is illegally occupied by Russia. By the way, it is also fixed in so-called Crimean Declaration, which was announced by United States during Trump's first presidency. So, and all countries in the world, including, by the way, Russia, recognize Crimea to be Ukrainian. So, the fact that it will be still occupied by Russia doesn't make it Russian. And if United States wants to say Crimea is effectively controlled by Russia, yes, it is. It is effectively controlled by Russia. No problems with this. That's true. But it doesn't mean Crimea is Russian. Secondly, about NATO. We have, for us, it is very important that nobody, this is about Ukrainian sovereignty, that nobody can tell us, you can't knock at these doors. It's our right to knock at the doors. But to open the doors or not is the right of NATO and the United States, first of all, as the most important member of NATO. So if United States don't want to see Ukraine in NATO, okay, that's their decision. We can't do anything with this. They just need to say, we don't know, we don't, sorry, we don't want. Okay, you don't want, okay? But nobody can tell to Ukraine, you shouldn't go this direction or that direction because it will mean that we are not sovereign.
Alexei, it's very interesting how you said that just because someone controls a territory does not mean that it owns it. While you say that, don't you think that also keeps the window for future wars open?
We're speaking about freezing of the conflict. We're not speaking about resolution of this conflict because the only way for resolution of this conflict is restoring of Ukrainian territorial integrity inside Ukrainian internationally recognized borders. Any other option is just freezing. But we know from history that freezing can last maybe for years, but sometimes for decades. Watch at Korea, watch at many other examples. So we're speaking just about freezing, absolutely.
So you don't think like a permanent peace could come through this deal in
No, it's
today's deal?
impossible. It's impossible. How? What permanent peace? There is. Ukraine will never recognize any inch of our territory to be Russian. Russia is not going to leave the territories which they already occupied. So there is no way for a permanent peace deal. But also, what does we mean? What do we mean with the words permanent? I just want to remind you that there were many permanent agreements in the world's history, which lasted sometimes just for several years. So it's life. Life will change. Don't forget that Russia, during last 100 years, Russia collapsed two times. Twice. 100 years ago, Russia collapsed, and many new independent states emerged Finland, Poland, others. Then in 1991, Soviet Union, Russia collapsed again, and more countries emerged. I'm absolutely sure that Russian Empire will collapse for the third time. We don't know, tomorrow or in 20 years. I don't know. But I'm not sure that it will happen. So when it will happen, Ukraine will regain control over our territories.
All right, Alexei, very big statements there. Thank you so much for joining us on Hindustan Times.
Thank you
It was a
very
pleasure
much.
speaking.